What would you do if your HOA filled your water pipe with concrete, not realizing it supplied water to the entire neighborhood? Yeah, they messed with the wrong person, and the payback was legendary. Before we get into it, tell me which country you're watching from, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more insane HOA and Karen stories every week. It all started when I bought a small property on the edge of a suburban development, a quiet cul-de-sac run by an HOA that loved power more than peace. My home sat on what used to be a farm parcel before the neighborhood was built. It had one small quirk. The main underground water line for the entire community passed through my land before branching out to all the other homes. It wasn't a problem. The developers had designed it that way decades ago, and the county records were clear. But the new HOA didn't like that, especially the president, a woman named Brenda, who acted like she was running her own private empire. She couldn't stand that one homeowner, me, technically had something she didn't control. For months, she nitpicked everything I did. The color of my fence, my mailbox, even the flowers I planted. I ignored most of it. But things got worse when the HOA decided to build a community water feature, a decorative fountain near the entrance. They needed to connect to the main line, the same one that ran through my property. They sent me a notice claiming they needed temporary access to install their pipeline. I politely refused, not because I wanted to be difficult, but because I knew how these projects go. Once they start digging, they rarely stop. Brenda didn't like that answer. The next week, she marched into a board meeting and told everyone I was, quote, holding the community hostage. She claimed I was blocking improvements and hoarding water access. The rumors spread fast. Neighbors who once waved now glared. Then one morning, everything changed. I woke up to the sound of machinery near the edge of my property. When I went outside, I saw a group of HOA contractors digging right where my main water connection ran. I told them they had no authorization to be there, but they just shrugged and said the HOA president told them it was approved. By the time I could get the county utilities office on the phone, it was too late. They had filled the pipe with concrete. At first, I thought it was sabotage, maybe just my line. But when I turned on the faucet and nothing came out, I realized the truth. That pipe didn't just feed my house. It supplied every single home in the neighborhood. By noon, the HOA office was flooded, not with water, but with angry residents. No one had running water. Not for drinking, not for showers, not even for flushing toilets. Brenda tried to spin it, claiming there was a minor maintenance issue. But when county officials arrived and traced the problem, the look on her face said it all. The concrete blockage started right at the section the HOA contractors had tampered with, on my property. The county senior inspector called it one of the dumbest acts of negligence he'd ever seen. The entire neighborhood's water supply was effectively destroyed because the HOA had modified a public utility line without a permit. Within hours, trucks arrived. Excavators tore up the newly paved road trying to access the line. The HOA had to pay for emergency crews to jackhammer through the concrete. Every homeowner was furious, especially when they learned that the HOA's project wasn't even approved by the city. Brenda went from smug to silent. The repair costs were astronomical. The county demanded the HOA cover the full cost of reconstruction, not just to fix my pipe, but to restore the entire grid. They estimated it at over $480,000. The HOA didn't have that kind of money. Their reserve fund barely covered landscaping and minor maintenance. Within weeks, they were drowning in debt. To make it worse, the insurance company refused to pay out because the act was deemed willful damage to a utility structure. The adjuster specifically cited Brenda's authorization as the root cause. That's when Brenda tried to shift the blame, claiming I had sabotaged the pipe myself to frame her. But the county's investigators had photographic evidence of the crew working under HOA orders. Her signature was on the request form. The city council got involved. Fines were issued. And because the HOA had tampered with county infrastructure, the state's water authority opened a formal investigation. By the time the legal dust settled, the HOA had lost everything. Homeowners were furious about skyrocketing dues and assessments. Some filed lawsuits for negligence and property damage. Within 6 months, the HOA dissolved under bankruptcy protection. The neighborhood's management reverted to the county, which declared the HOA defunct and revoked its authority. Brenda's reputation collapsed overnight. Her name became a local punchline, the woman who concreted her own water supply. She moved out quietly after her home was foreclosed, leaving behind unpaid fines and angry neighbors. As for me, the county restored my property line and even compensated me for the damage. They rerouted the water main off my land and thanked me for cooperating during the mess. One of the engineers even joked that my address had become legendary in the utilities department. It took months for things to return to normal, but when they did, the difference was night and day. Without the HOA's constant control, the community actually felt alive. Neighbors talked again. Kids played outside. People took care of their homes without fear of fines. Sometimes I still think about that morning. The sound of machinery, the arrogance in Brenda's voice, and the way it all came crashing down because of one terrible decision. All because someone couldn't stand the idea of not having control. In the end, karma did what it always does. The same HOA that tried to teach me a lesson ended up teaching the entire town what happens when power and pride mix with stupidity. So, the next time your HOA threatens you with petty fines or fake authority, remember this story. Sometimes the best revenge doesn't come from fighting back. It comes from letting their own arrogance destroy them. And that's how my HOA filled my water pipe with concrete, not knowing it supplied water to the entire block.